All right, good morning, everyone. Got a lively group today. Excellent, great. We're full of energy today. Great to have everyone. Good morning, and nice to have Tova here with us. Appreciate it. Now I'm really nervous. I thought I'd be nervous with all of you, but now it's extra special. All right, keep me in line. All right. Today's shiur is entitled, as you see on the handout, Binyamin, Yosef's cup, and Yehudah's redemption. And then the subtitle is Your Seder Will Never Be the Same. So what I want to do today with you is go over the biblical narrative from the Parsha, mentioned last week's Parsha as well. And then after that, I want to set it in the context of the Pesach Seder. All right, so that's going to be our task today, and I hope that it'll be meaningful. I've made the claim that your Seder will never be the same. So I'm hoping that that is true, and I believe it will be. But if you don't think it's really true, then you'll get a refund on coming today. Okay? All right. We're agreed? All right. Oh, sorry. Trigger warning. Sorry, I mentioned Pesach. I know that word. In December, already PTSD sets in. So trigger warning. My apologies. Um, okay, so Vayigash Yehudah, right? So Yehudah approaches Yosef after the end of last week's Parsha. It's amazing. It's not a Jewish thing, but it's very dramatic, right? The Jewish people didn't set up the Parshiot as we have them now in the chapters and the verses, but it's really a cliffhanger, right? At the end of last week's Parsha, Yosef is like, okay, Binyamin will stay with me, right? And then he says a goodbye, and it's the end of the Parsha. Now this week, all of a sudden, Yehudah approaches Yosef. We'll touch on that in a little while. But the speech itself, if you look at it, and we read it, a couple of times this week and Shabbos afternoon, it doesn't seem to be that impactful, right? And the end, though, everyone says, "Oh, what an amazing job Yehudah did convincing Yosef," and then everything evolves, and Yosef reveals himself, and then it happens. But if you look at it word for word, it doesn't seem that what Yehudah said was so remarkable. It seems pedestrian, right? If you remember, Yehudah repeats what Yaakov said, repeats what the brothers said to Yaakov, what Yosef said to the brothers, what the brothers said to Yosef, and it's simply a repetition, right, of what we already said. What is the impact? What is the emotional connection that is created by Yehudah towards Yosef that had this tremendous? So that's what I'd like to explore with you today. How did Yehudah ultimately unmask Yosef and then allow for the family to be reunified? Okay, so that's the basic question that I'd like to examine with you today. So we have to look at it from the brother's perspective, right? From the children of Yaakov. And so we have to go back into Perek 43 plus 38 to see. Was there a typo? Oh, sorry. I need an editor, I think. All right, so just look in the handout. What's that? I must have made a typo. I'm prone to making a typo. All right, so just use it from the sheet if you have it. If not, just listen. Sorry for the typo. So we want to look at it and examine Yaakov's reaction, right, to the demand to send Binyamin to Egypt, and what effect that might have had on the brothers. So we're looking at it from a slightly different perspective than we usually do. Not just the straight language, but the effect that it would have on the brothers. So Yaakov says, "Vayomer lo yered b'ni imachem." He said, "He will not go down with you, my son, b'ni. He will not go down." And focus on b'ni. Ki achiv meis, because his brother is dead. V'hu levado nishar, and he remains alone. Right? In levado nishar, does that sound like Yaakov? Right? We spoke about that in my drasha a couple weeks ago, right? Vayigash, Yaakov levado. It's an interesting intertextual parallel. I'm not sure what to do with that, but it's just an echo that's important in this whole longer narrative. Ukra'ahu ason ba'derech asher telchu ba, and he's afraid that something bad is going to happen to him. Some kind of an accident will happen on this dangerous road, the path that they're going down. And then, just as if Binyamin lo yered, right? If he does go down, then behoradatem esevasibiyagon shaola. So too, I will go down, right, into the grave, into Sheol, right, into the depths of the earth in grief, right? Yagon, vanacha, in real desperate time for me emotionally. So, what is that echoing in the ear of the brothers? Because he says Bani, right? We emphasize Bani, my son, but he has many sons, right? Again, he's favoritism, right? So you hear in that Bani, my son, and he is alone. What do you mean he's alone? Only child of Rachel. But we're talking about the brothers, right? So they are the children of Leah, not Rachel. Yeah, and the other the handmaidens as well. So they're hearing again. Yaakov is doing what? Sounds like he's repeating the same mistake that had happened before, right? Shimon, we've forgotten about him. He's not even mentioned. Where is Shimon? He's in jail already. He's still in jail in Egypt. And Yaakov doesn't speak about Shimon. Poor Shimon, right? Poor Shimmy. Our neighbor is Shimmy. Poor Shimmy. Um, right. So the brothers are listening to this and like, wait a second, this sounds eerily similar to what's happened in the past. And why are we here? What effect did that have on them, on their hearts and their souls, and their relationships with their brothers and with their father? Right? Very, very difficult to experience again. And then when Yosef was lost to Yaakov, right, he said the same thing. I hope that is the correct. I like the way that you're checking up on. I need to be checked on my sources. But 37:35, he says the same thing about Sevasibi Agon Shaola, right? Yosef, when Yosef was lost, Yaakov said the same thing. So once again, it's another repetition of what happened to Yosef is happening to Binyamin, and it's as if he's thrown back there, kind of like a post-traumatic stress reaction where you're placed back in the moment, the original moment of the tragedy, or the moment of trauma that occurred. And the brother's like, we have to go through this again. That's from the perspective of the brothers, right? So they're being forced to relive the painful favoritism that Yaakov showed to Yosef, as you said. It's all happening again. Yaakov is valorizing Binyamin, right? The child of Rachel over the children of Leah and the handmaidens as well. But here there's a difference. Well, similar. I mean, Yehudah did in the past, right, with Yosef, he did step in, right? What was Yehudah's contribution? Right, don't kill him, right? As Rabbi Lookstein said, like 2 cheers for Yehudah, like okay, they didn't kill him, but they still threw him in the pit. And then what happened to him? So they sold him up, right? So Yehudah comes out a little bit better than the other brothers, but he's not coming out like the shining star. But now, okay, is he going to do something similar or different, right? So now Yehudah. So this is where Vayigash comes in, right? And he said to his father that he's going to take responsibility for bringing back Binyamin in safety, right? Right. So when he does that, Yaakov gives in, right? And it's not so easy. Yaakov was very stark. Like he didn't want to have it. He wasn't even answering the directly. They said many times that if we don't come back with Binyamin, we won't get any food. And he's like, no, he still can't. He was like ignoring it, didn't want to hear it. But ultimately, finally, now even Yaakov gives in and says that, okay, I'm allow Binyamin. But now the real test comes. I mean, just because Yehudah announced that he was going to take responsibility, but that's not necessarily the test. The test is when something might happen to him, right? That's when the real test is, right? Is Yehudah and put into reality that commitment that he made. He's going to have to really show what he's worth in order to do that. So, we got a good setup, but what's going to really happen, right? Perhaps he's going to say, why should we? What would be a reaction that the brothers would have with Binyamin, right? Yaakov is playing favorite again to this Binyamin. Now Binyamin is going to be without the supervision of Yaakov. What could happen on the way? What might the brothers think of? They might have another story that happens. Oh, Binyamin, he got lost again. They're a little bit on tenterhooks, maybe, but at least theoretically, it's possible, right? Just because the same thing may play out. Right? So that's really the key here. This is the real kind of crisis moment. How are they going to handle it? Okay, so go to page 2. Also, thanks to I did have the pages right where is David here? He's not here. I put the page numbers on. Right, we want to make sure you can follow page 2 to page 3. But I at least found the place to put in the headings. Okay. All right. So this topic is now the next step, which I call facing the test. Right, facing the test. Okay, everything seems to go well. Yosef sees Binyamin, sends them all home with silver. Oh, this is a good thing for us. We're benefiting from it. Oh, then comes Yosef setting it up. All right, the cup is found in Binyamin's sack. And that's when it happens. Right, that's when he demands that Binyamin remain in Egypt as a what? As a slave. Who else was a slave or a servant in Eved? Yosef, exactly. So now we're seeing what Yosef, had in mind, right? This idea of the parallel of Yosef, again, as you said, the son of Rachel, and now Binyamin, the second son of. Now he's a slave in Eved, and what's going to happen? The same situation that happened years before. As the great philosopher Yogi Berra said, deja vu all over again. Right? Okay, so, but will it be the same? Will it play out according to the same lines that it did with Yosef? That's the dramatic tension that exists here. Will they allow Binyamin to remain as a slave? So now let's get into the next part is Yehudah's reaction. And as I mentioned at the beginning, the end of last week's Parsha ended with Yosef saying to the brothers, okay, go up. I have Binyamin. He is guilty. They didn't even question it. It's one of the striking things for me in the whole episode. Well, they didn't even say, no, Binyamin was innocent. He didn't do anything. This was, they were caught dead to right. They couldn't say anything. Right? Manadaber, Manitzarav, Yehudah says, what can we say? And by the way, an interesting parallel in our Rosh Hashanah, why bring up Rosh Hashanah? But that's what we say during Slifos. We use the language of Yehudah, which I find just parenthetically, just to digress for a second, right? We say that the Avera of the brothers really is, it affects all of them, the Averos being out on the Chavero that we do, even today, right? So we're using Yehudah's own language, right? In the context, we have to see the context of our tefillos and what Chazal had in mind. It's amazing when we find those parallels. Okay, why bring up Rosh Hashanah? I know that's also a trigger warning too. But we can't help. We can't help it. The Torah is connected. It's so wonderful. It's so beautiful. I love it. And I know you do too. So it's okay to take a brief moment to reflect on the echoes from our liturgy or our Yom Tov. All right, so let's take a look. Yes. Yeah. Not looking good. So from that perspective, they, on a midrashic level, right? So, yeah, so we see that that is a possibility, right? How do you stem that with, and that, it means that according to that, Yehudah is really taking on all of the brothers as well. So that makes it even more dramatic, and Yehudah shows his inner strength by doing that. Okay, I really that passage in Rabbeinu Bachia hurts me a lot, so I don't like to repeat it because I was beaten up by my brothers quite a bit, so I don't like that one. All right. So I hope my next chapter and verse is accurate. 44:20. Now look in the pasuk that I didn't take the whole thing. We could study it for hours and hours, and it's really worthwhile to do so. I'm just going to take out a few of the points that I find relevant for us for today's purpose, and it'll be enough for today. You can always go back and study on your own. But yesh lanu ab zaken v'yeled zikunim katan. Right, we have an old father, and there's a child of his old age, the youngest. Who are they referring to? Binyamin. Well, where does that word zikunim, and where does that echo? It also was the description originally with Yosef. So once again, Yehudah he's echoing the previous experience that they have, right? Amazing the way that Torah does this, right? Okay, repeats, he's left alone, li'imo, va'aviv ahevo. If you look at it in a simple way, he's just stating the fact. How? Well, thank you. Exactly. It's not only the fact. He's saying it. He's crystallizing the word. And that's very important, right? When you apologize to somebody, it's hard to get those words out. I'm sorry, or I love you, or some real deep emotional words. They're not so easy to get out. So for Yehudah to say it, to say that he is a beloved son, It's a tremendous move emotionally for him. That's what I want to convey to us today about that pasuk. It's not simply the fact, but the fact that he is saying it is what is crucial. So Yehudah is right in the past when they saw that he was a favorite, they couldn't speak anything. They couldn't speak to him. They couldn't speak to the father. The father, Shamaris Adavar, he saw what was going on. He saw the brothers' hatred. Here, there is a difference. There's no hatred, but there's an ability to state it, which means that there's a psychological acceptance of that reality, which is really, really crucial in this episode and shows the growth and progress that Yehudah is making. Right? And then he says, Benafsho Kashura Benafsho. His life is bound up with his Yaakov and Binyamin. They're tied together, right? As if like with Yosef, he was so strongly committed to Yosef, but now without Yosef, he's doubly connected to Binyamin because Binyamin now takes on the symbol of Yosef too. So there's like a double connection that Yaakov has with Binyamin because it's also a compensation for the loss of Yosef, right? And this is where the Risho, those of you who were in shul this morning, you heard in the main show, we heard Marty's beautiful laning. It ends the Aliyah. It's amazing again that the ending of the Aliyah is right here, Nafsho Kshura Benafsho. And then it's a dot dot dot. I think they call that ellipsis. I think in grammar, it's where there's a dot 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 and there's nothing. Okay, you're confirming that. Three dots. So there are the three dots because he doesn't continue that statement. Right? So we infer that, and this is a huge agreement of Yaakov to allow Binyamin to go down, right? So again, by stating this, it must have been so hard for Yehudah, representing the brothers, to admit that Binyamin / Yosef, are the favorites, right? And that they are more beloved than the other brothers, right? And so in the past, when they got rid of Yosef, they deceived Yaakov. They deceived him. There's no deception here. There's no we'll have Binyamin get lost in the shuk of Cairo or something like that. No, they are stepping up. Everything is out on the table. So there's a big change. And they're not acting upon that emotion. It must have stung deep down, but it wasn't the raw emotion of the original feelings they had against Yosef, of the hatred and the venom and the bitterness. It still stings, but they're accepting it. And this shows tremendous emotional growth. All right, in the next pasuk, Kirosoki in a nar v'mes, right? And if the nar is ayin, if he's nothing, right? If you read it strongly, you say he's ain a nar, he doesn't exist anymore, right? V'mes, he will die. Yaakov will not be able to handle it, right? And then again, it goes down to he would go down to the grave, right, in agony and grief. All right, and then in 32, all right, go back to 31. What's that? That's also a difference between the brothers' feelings about how the effect of the loss of a son is having on Yaakov. That's what we want to point out by this, right? Because did they feel anything when they what effect did it have on Yaakov? And who was responsible for it? It was the brother. Right? Even Yehudah, even though he saved them from being killed. Yeah. That that's a good point. Yeah, true. We don't hear it, but maybe the brothers were, they were afraid that maybe Binyamin, would, yeah, because Binyamin didn't have the dreams and all of that, right? So the parallels are not 100% here, but strong enough to show that there's a difference. Okay, good point. All right, so so now focusing on the fact that now Yehuda is having empathy not only for Binyamin but also for who? For Yaakov, right? So that's another a big change in this narrative. All right, and then he continues this, right? And then the Katasi La'avi, right? So then he's saying to Yaakov, right? If something happens to Benjamin, I'll never, the sin will be too much to bear, and it'll be basically forever. Okay, so this is the key on the top of page three. Um, so Yehuda pledges to take Binyamin's place, but also another key as we analyzed, he shows empathy for his father. Yes, Rabbi. Excellent point. Did everyone hear that? Yehuda, right? We have this digression in the Torah, right? And the whole story of Yosef and all, mitten derinnen, as my aunt Allah Shalom used to say. She said, learn Yiddish. You'll be able to, when I became a Rav, she said, learn Yiddish. You'll be able to speak to your congregation. I tried, it didn't work out so well. I have a bissel, but I remember some of the phrases that my mother and my aunt used to say. So yes, in the middle of everything, all of a sudden the Torah tells us the story of Yehuda and Tamar, right? So Robin is pointing out that Yehuda went through a growth opportunity, which perhaps allowed him to understand on a personal level the loss of a child, right? God forbid that anyone should have to experience that. And it definitely has an emotional impact. And perhaps that was, yeah. That was one of the key points that I had to take out of the shear because of, it would take a long time to go through it. But I'm very happy that you're mentioning it because it's where Yehuda, we can interpret that Yehuda developed his empathy for Yaakov from the loss of his own children. So excellent, brilliant point for that. Okay, so now comes what I call Yehuda's redemption. Right, V'ata. And by the way, I just thought of it now. V'ata, in Midrashic rabbinic literature, we see V'ata later on in Devarim, and I'm remembering V'ata always means teshuva. Always means teshuva. I just realized that now. Teshuva right here. And this would be a great proof for that midrashic idea. Yeshev na abdecha tachas hana'ar. I'm going to substitute myself for the lad as an eved, and the na'ar will go up, right? He'll go to Eretz Israel. So this is the climax. This is where the commitment now is lived. There's a difference between I'm going to do something and then when the pressure comes to actually do it and concretize that commitment that you made. And so he steps up, right, and is able to do it. How can I go up? But the lad is not with me. And then I have to see my father's reaction, going back again to the empathy of the father. So with these words, he shows the growth, the emotional progress that he made as he chooses slavery for himself over causing pain to his brothers and his father, and therefore he reverses the choices of the past. So there we have Teshuvah, which many of you know, according to Rambam, Tshuva Gemura, complete Tshuva, is when you come to the same situation and then make a different choice. So this was a different choice that Yehudah made at great turmoil to himself. And we can only imagine what it took, because the Torah is external. We only see the actions and the statements. But what kind of emotional struggle did it take to overcome the pain from the past and still to choose integrity and strength over, deceiving and trying to avoid the reality. Okay, so we find acceptance, we find stepping up, and we find great gevura, as we say, right? A gibor in the sense of kovesh et yitzro, of commanding your own inner passions. Okay, so now that's the end of this presentation from our parsha. And now I want to take an excursion. Again, trigger warning. Sorry. Mentioned the 4 cups of wine on Pesach. We're familiar with the Arba Lashonos of Geula. That is what we're all taught from Cheder, right? Hotzetzi, Itzalti, Gaalti, Lakachti. Those are the 4 languages from chapter 6 in the Sefer Shemos, right? So that's why we have 4 cups of wine, because Pesach is about redemption. It's about being saved from Egypt and being free, right? Chayrus, freedom. However, you may not know, some of you may know, that's not the only reason. That's still only a drash. It's not the reason with a capital the. It is a reason, and it's the most popular one, and it's meaningful. But there are many other midrashim about the Arba Kosos, right? Because it's just an agadata, not a halacha. There are different perspectives, right? So you don't have to follow this in a halachic sense. Oh, that's why you can look at it from many angles on a midrashic level, right? In the Yerushalmi, the Jerusalem Talmud, and some of you heard a shir on the development of the Torah Shebal Peh earlier. So there is a Babylonian Talmud and there's a Yerushalmi. Some people call it the Palestinian Talmud. Oh, oi. I'll call it the Yerushalmi. Is that okay? All right. So they ask, Minayin la arba kosos. So how do we know? And the reason that I'm bringing this one is due to the idea that it's referencing Pharaoh. It's our parsha, it's our Inyan, right? So Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi Amar, Keneged Arba Kosos Shel Paro. No, we have 4 cups of wine because there are 4 cups of Pharaoh. What do you mean 4 cups of Pharaoh? So remember the episode with the butler, right? Butlers do what? They pour wine into a cup, right? So I'm not bringing the whole section to save paper, but let's count it. Kos paro biyadi, right? The cup of Pharaoh is in my hand, but as chadotam el kos paro, I squeeze the grapes into the cup of Pharaoh, and then I gave the cup into his hand, and you gave the kos paro into his hand. So the Midrash is saying, why do we have to know this whole thing? Just tell us that the butler gave Pharaoh a cup of wine. Why do we have to put it in his hand? He put it in the thing. He cut the thing, and who cares? What does it have to do with Pesach? We'll get there in a second. That's my question. But first of all, we have to understand, right? So the Midrash is coming to say there's a problem in the text, right? There's a problem in the Pshat. Why do we have to know this whole butler? That's what a butler does. You're not giving me a finish that the butler gave Pharaoh to drink. That's his job, right? So the Midrash is coming to say why, in my opinion, it's explaining why there has to be the mention of 4 cups of Pharaoh. All right, so you agree that there's a interesting parallel here. But now we have the question. Now now that Rabbi Yosef and Levi, what is he trying to teach us? Right? What is the relationship of Pharaoh? So, what do you think? Right? Let me throw it out there to you guys. You're telling me we don't, right? It's strange. Pharaoh was he was the reason the Jewish people were enslaved for so many years, and now the redemption, and now we're 4 cups of wine that we're commemorating Pharaoh's drinking. So, any thoughts? Oh, okay, maybe. But wasn't it the same? Or it was a different one. Lo yadas Yosef. Okay, maybe. But just as just as the Pharaoh, right? The association is like, right. Okay, yeah. It's like Geula. That's a nice idea. It shows the reversal of Jewish history. It's kind of like in the fact that I heard this from, I think Rabbi Lamb has a drush about this on Pesach, that that in ancient times they used to recline on couches like the Romans used to do. With the Romans also, they're also they not enslaved, but they destroyed the Beis Hamikdash and caused us for now, but we're still here and we're doing what they did. Okay, nice idea. Yeah. That's right. That's right. Yeah. Wait, first of all, where are you in line talking Torah? What, in Target? Roma? That's amazing. You're talking Torah. You're giving shot on. That's amazing. You're building a great share. We can, like all of your examples, we can say, hey, the Jewish tradition uses the enemies to sometimes, yeah, but once you have 3 examples, you have a share, in my opinion. Right? I mean, yeah, you can build. You got 3 examples, right? Keep it up. Right, right. So Sharon points out, yeah, people didn't hear that. There's a story in the Gemara where we learn kibbut from, from an unlikely sources. That would be a great title for a share. Please God, we'll be able to do it. I think just simply that this was, just looking back at it, that episode was crucial for the development of the narrative, right? Because what was the result of the butler, right? He ended up being freed, right? Because Yosef interpreted the dream. Then what happened because of that? What happened to Yosef? Yosef was freed as well. So my humble opinion, just where Yeshua and Levi has in mind is, among other things, one way of looking at it would be that episode with the Arbacosos of Pharaoh was the progenitor of the whole episode of Yosef being freed and ultimately the Jewish people being enslaved, but also symbolizing the freedom of Yosef, which symbolized the freedom of Bnei Israel ultimately. So that's my thing about that. So that's why we celebrate Bnei Israel the Seder according to Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Okay, I just gave that as an example of an episode that was crucial to the development of the narrative, which ultimately led to the freedom of Bnei Israel. Okay, and I'm going to show you, and this is, I hope, it's worth the price of admission, that we also have in the story, because that's an important story. But I think at the beginning of the shir, the first half hour, 40 minutes, was to show that the episode with Binyamin and the cup was also a crucial denouement of the whole story. It was the climax. Wouldn't you agree? Didn't we just say that it showed how much progress Yehudah made? And if you were to look at a narrative from Pharaoh and from this time in Bereshit, that would also be an important narrative that really thrusts the whole story forward to ultimately with the Jewish people going down, but ultimately the redemption of the Jewish people. Wouldn't you say that that is as important, if not more important, than the story with Pharaoh? All right. All right. Set it up as best I can. Now, let's go. And I call this section the four cups of Yosef. The four cups of Yosef. Many years ago, I saw that there was a Rashi, right? And I know my fact checker is we could give Rebecca a job as a fact checker. They do that. They do that in CNN and Fox. They check facts. Okay, 44-2. And this is the Gavia HaKesef, right? We said that the cup was placed in the sack of Benjamin. So it's called a Gavia. How many of you speak modern Hebrew? What is a Gavia? A cup. And when do they use it? They use it in sports, right? The Gavia is like the championship. The trophy, it's like a cup, right? So some of you are from Toronto, right? Anyone from Toronto today? No, okay. Oh, here. All right. Sorry about the Maple Leafs, but it's a Stanley Cup. The Stanley Cup. It's a Gavia, right? Toronto hasn't won in. I know it's not nice. I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm so sorry. I'm empathetic. Empathy. All right. So what's a Gavia? Rashi has to tell us. Kos. Kos. Aro. It's a long cup, and he gives us the old French, which I'm not going to butcher to pronounce it, not for our purposes today. When he describes the menorah, and it says Givieha, right, in Teruma, he explains it the same way. Not sure why he had already explained Gavia already in Bereshit, but in any event, it's a kos. So a Gavia is a kos. Right, so that's one Gavia. In Pasuk 12, Vayimatzei HaGavia, that's how many times? 2. And in 16, and it's a HaGavia Biyado is 4. And in 17, it's a HaGavia Biyado on 3. And a Gavia Biyado is 4. So we have the 4 cups of Yosef. What's the reaction? I want to hear. Thank you. I was waiting. I have to draw that out for this. I was hoping that it would be automatic. Right? Va'alula shalom el avichem. We said before that is the last pasuk of last week's parsha. Shalom is a trigger. Right? Why is shalom a trigger? Like, remember Yosef? Thank you. They couldn't write at the beginning of the story. They couldn't speak shalom. Lo yachlu dabro shalom. And what did the mission that we saw a couple weeks ago? What mission did Yaakov send Yosef on? Ha shalom, right? Shalom. Right? And so peace is really crucial textually in this whole episode. They didn't. That is right. So now they're Vayigash, and then Yosef says, "Come close." Yehudah came close, and then the brothers came close afterwards. Now there's some shalom. Now there's some reconciliation. It's a very troubling. Did everyone hear the question? They say that if there's some kind of a reconciliation, right, um, then then there's also a teaching, right, that we going back again to Yom Kippur. We have the Eila Ezkara, right, and we read the story of the 10 martyrs from the Roman period who were murdered. And Chazal teach us that one of the reasons is the sale of Yosef. So it's a very profound question, and the best that I've come to kind of accept on that is um, that similar to the Chet HaEgel, we have the Chet of Mechiras Yosef. And the Chet HaEgel is also something that still affects us today. So the fact that there may have been a reconciliation and a punishment does not mean that it's over and done with. There still can be an effect in it, and the fact is that we're still not perfect. So either bein Adam Lamakom with the Chet HaEgel, we're not perfect, and every year we still go through the same sins which are rooted in the Chet HaEgel. So only until the time of the Mashiach, when we uproot the Yetzer Hara Lagamre, are we still affected by the Chet HaEgel. I'd like to claim, and I don't see it. There's a Gemara somewhere. I forget just offhand. I don't remember. It says that there's an icon of the just a piece, an ounce, not an ounce. Oh, I forget the lashon, only something like that, an ounce of the Chet HaEgel in every sin that we do. I'd like to suggest that mitzvahs benon l'chaveiro, there's also an ounce of the sinas chinam of Yosef for Yosef as well in everything that we do. So, but the redemption from Pesach also is not 100%. We have to realize, and this is a really crucial to our whole understanding, that we're not fully redeemed at Pesach. We have that fifth cup, right? And that's Rav Kasher and many shirim on that. That it's the time of the Mashiach, and that's what the second half of the Seder is getting too much involved with that. But that's also the point, is that we're still troubled by Veiros ben Chavero as well. So we don't have a full geula until the time. So on both levels, both ben Chavero, we're not prepared. We're not 100% ready for the geula shalema, but also in Pesach we're not either. So that keeps us motivated that we continue have to do better. Right, and by the way, I didn't show you, but in verse 2, if you're asking me, well, where's the fifth, right? Where's the fifth? We have a fifth cup at the Seder. My pshat has Gevi'i, right? At the beginning of Pasuk 2, Gevi'i Gevia HaKesef, my Gevia. So I have a fifth one too, according to my drash. All right, so there's a fifth one. So just to bring this to the conclusion, right, so we see that the episode of Binyamin really pushes the narrative to the climax where Yehudah is redeemed. And we saw that Yehudah's redemption was one of Teshuvah. Pesach as well is about the spiritual freedom against the Yetzer Hara. There are many. I didn't have the time today. That's a whole shir. But Gemara in Brachos, I think it's 17a, talks about the Seor Sheba Isa, right? That the Chametz, really is the Yetzer Hara, right? And the Alshich and many others explain that Pesach is also about the spiritual redemption from the Yetzer Hara, right? So the spiritual bondage that we face. So my suggestion, therefore, is that we drink 4 cups of wine to reflect the 4 cups of Yosef, which redeems and unites the family. There is that reconciliation. It's not 100%. We have to do our part, and this is our whole raison d'etre as a community, that we have to be really kind to one another 100%, even on the little things that bother us. We have to uh, we have to still be kind and caring and passionate to one another, and that's the way we'll be able to have the full redemption, the Geula Shalema of B'mheira V'yameinu. Yeah, it's a good question. We heard the other, Rishon that said that they didn't just think of harming him, but they actually did harm him. I don't know. It's a hard thing to understand because, if Yaakov found out, I don't know, maybe they're thinking that they could keep it from him again and continue to deceive and, yeah, and then make up something, another story. So, yeah, I don't want to go that way. Isn't it our destiny? No, it's not. We can't say that. We have to say, no, we're going to overcome. We're going to overcome. We will overcome. Wait, somebody used to say that. No, we can overcome it, right? And we can't say that, oh, we're never going to do it because then we won't. We have to be optimistic about it. We have to keep in mind that it is possible, and we have to overcome all of our Yetzer Haras that affect us right away. And it's harder as we get older. As we get older, we lose that kind of self-control. But it's harder, but we can still do it. Yes, another question. Comment. Yeah, yeah. Well, I think, I don't think you can impose anything upon anybody. And that's from my counseling background. I can't make you feel any way. I can't make you get angry. You're 100% responsible for your anger, your sadness, and your guilt. So Yehudah had to take it upon himself to feel that way, which itself was guilt is not a terrible thing, by the way. It shows us when something is amiss, emotionally or ethically. So that shows, I think, growth as well. All right, next week, because of the holiday, the federal holiday, the shul office is going to be closed, so we're going to take a hiatus until. I'm so sorry. I may have to rethink. Rethink that. It's not a Jewish holiday. All right, so we won't. Okay, I'll rethink it. I'll rethink it. I'll let you know by email. Thank you all for participating. Thank you. That's great. Thank you. You're so sweet.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure. My great pleasure. What is it? You're keeping it. Very nice. Very good.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much. My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you very much. Wait, I didn't hear what? That was a big. You do everything.
Yes, my son Yehudah, another teacher of mine.
Oh, Yehudah. Pleasure to meet you. Thank you very much. Wonderful. Oh, wonderful. How old are they? Oh, nice. Very good. Heard so much about you. Not just from here, but doing great work. Sure. Sure. Oh, great. Wonderful. Good. Very close. It's a great place. Most of my friends. I'm from yeah. All right, so we go. Very good. Is thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. I thought we were not, but yeah, I'm gonna have to rethink that. Thank you.
And I will add this to my saying.
Wonderful.
Add it, I'm not saying